Hello and welcome to the hidden world of microorganisms. Today we are going to talk about peatlands. Peatlands are a particular ecosystem that hosts an incredible variety of species and also play a crucial role in the balance of greenhouse gases. So what are peatlands? As their name indicates, peatlands are lands covered in peat, and peat is a particular type of soil characterized by the presence of a high proportion of only partly decomposed organic matter. As we talked about in the episode about soil, soil develops at the interface between the rock of the earth crust and the surface where living things, living activities and wastes of living organisms generate organic matter, and the organic matter gets mixed into the crumbling rock of the earth crust. And this layer where the organic matter and the mineral rock mix is called soil. Soil can be very thin, only a few centimeters, or very thick, a few meters, depending on the climate conditions, depending on the community of organisms living there, depending on human activities or even natural catastrophic episodes like floods and avalanches, etc. A major role in the soil ecosystem functioning is played by the communities that participate in the decomposition of organic matter, reducing wastes and dead bodies into pieces smaller and smaller until eventually the microorganisms break them into the form that can be reabsorbed into the system as nutrient for plants and other microorganisms. The final step of decomposition is the release into the atmosphere of carbon in the form of carbon dioxide or sometimes methane. Carbon will then re-enter the system through the absorption of carbon dioxide by plants through photosynthesis, plants and some microorganisms that do photosynthesis as well. In some places where soil is constantly or regularly covered in water, there is not enough oxygen in the soil for the decomposing community to be active or big, and therefore the organic residues will be only partially decomposed. And that's where peat develops. When and where there is enough oxygen in peatlands, carbon will be released into the atmosphere in the form of carbon dioxide. In the layer of the soil that is covered in water and therefore there is not enough oxygen, there is a community of microorganisms that produce methane instead of carbon dioxide. But most of the organic residues accumulate because the decomposing community is not active enough and organic matter is produced much faster than it is decomposed. And the soil, very rich in partly decomposed organic matter, is what we call peat. Hence the name peatland. It is not very easy to live in a soil and in an environment where the soil is constantly, regularly waterlogged, which is why in peatlands we find a lot of organisms that have adapted to the harsh conditions. And this adapted diversity to peatlands makes them particularly important environments rich in biodiversity. Peatlands are not important only for this specific organism. They are also indispensable for other species that use them only now and again. For example, amphibians that need the semi-aquatic conditions to reproduce, or migratory birds that stop there during their voyage to rest. Besides their importance as a hotspot of biodiversity, peatlands are also very important in the balance of greenhouse gases, as we mentioned before. As we said, peat is very rich in partially decomposed organic material, which means that the carbon that these organic residues contains is trapped there. If we change the conditions that maintain the carbon trapped into the organic residues, they will be decomposed and methane or carbon dioxide will be released into the atmosphere. Of course, as we mentioned before, the carbon will re-enter the system through absorption by plants through photosynthesis. But the thing is that the carbon dioxide that we have nowadays into the atmosphere does not only come from the composition of living things. To that we have to add the carbon dioxide that originates from the consumption of fossil carbon used as fuel, like petrol and gas, that are burned by cars, planes, trains, boats, and also factories, heating systems, and power plants. So then what can change this condition and transform peatlands from a sink of carbons to a source of carbon for the atmosphere? The drainage of peatlands to extract peat for fuel or for garden soil is a huge problem, although nowadays peat is rarely extracted as fuel. Drainage directly destroys the environment, causes directly the death of all the organisms that are living there. And the peat extracted, whether used for fuel or as garden soil, either way, it will release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. And then there's another way that human activities are impacting peatlands. You see, many peatlands are found in the north of the northern hemisphere, where temperatures are cold enough that the water in peatlands is actually frozen most of the time. Permanently frozen soil is called permafrost. Unfortunately, with global change and rising temperature that we are experiencing in the last decades, huge areas of permafrost are melting, and the water melting, evaporating, leaves peat exposed to decomposition, releasing the captured carbon into the atmosphere and going to increase greenhouse gases concentration in the atmosphere. It is all very complex and everything is linked together. Nature, fortunately, is very resilient, but we must do our best to protect peatlands from destruction, for the amazing diversity that they host and for the crucial role they play in greenhouses gas effects. This is it for today. I hope you enjoyed learning about peatlands and their importance and beauty, and that you will continue following me in this journey of discovery and amazing of the hidden world of microorganisms. Bye now!